Well, let's go on to the World's Strongest Man. So we have 10 Americans. We have actually 9 official people representing America. Nick Camby is 10. He's representing Italy, but we know he's an American because that's the way we know him. So despite the fact, if you wanted that show or another show, Nick, we're not letting you off the hook. You will be an American as far as we're concerned. However, we appreciate your Italian-American heritage, and that's why he's competing for Italy in the World's Strongest Man. So we got Trey Mitchell, Bobby Thompson, Tom Evans, Evan Singleton, Nick Camby, Rob Kearney, Spencer Remick, Marcus Crowder, Nathan Gultry, and Kevin Ferris again, who's been back a few times. They are our American representatives, and it's going to be interesting. Listen, my first take on this show, and like I said, not to get too deep into it, is that it's pretty wide open. Some guys missing from this show. However, the 2 biggest names, the standout names that we're used to seeing on top of that podium are there. That's Mitch Hooper and Tom Stoltman. I expect them to be 1 and 2, and I expect Mitch Hooper to win this show again. I honestly don't see it any other way. I know Tom is a formidable opponent, but Mitch is just that guy. I think we can all agree. I mean, he's just in his stride right now, and I got to back Mitch Hooper. So I'm going to start the podium with Mitch Hooper and Tom second, and then everything opens up. And I mean everything opens up. Who I think probably will be there, I think making the finals, that's the first thing we should say. Who's getting out of the group? Well, I don't know what the groups are. I don't. And I don't think we have a really fair assessment of who's going to make it out of the groups until we see who those groups are and who's in those groups and, you know, how that works out as far as a points thing, who can steal points and who can get kind of jockey themselves around to get a first or second coming out of a group to get to World's Strongest Man. And for many of you out there, if you don't know, there's 5 groups, and those 5 groups are, I think, 6 guys. There's 30 guys in the competition this year. So they're going to do 5 groups. They'll have 30 guys, 6 guys per group, and then the top 2, 1 and 2, respectively, in each group will make it to the final. That's the top 10 for World's Strongest Man. That is no easy task. There's a lot of guys that have been in those groups for a long time and haven't made it, that are big, giant men and super strong. However, again, it's a points thing, and, you know, on any given Saturday, you know, guys can kind of jockey themselves around. That's why even like a guy like Nick Camby, a lot of you out there that I've spoke with and had a chance to talk with a little bit, and some of the things I've seen, we don't, you know, what are his chances of making it to the finals? Listen, don't count him out until you get to see the group he's in. I'm not counting him out. We know he's a phenomenal presser. So, you know, and I think the Viking press is a part of those first events. So, you know, he can easily win that event, if not steal some points. And you know as well as I do, it only takes one mistake, you know, God forbid, one little injury to change those rankings or standings around in those groups, to have guys that you generally wouldn't, you know, maybe give a chance to make it, an opportunity to make it when it comes down to those last couple events and groups. So we'll wait to see how those groups unfold. However, there's a couple guys I'm more than certain we're going to see come out of these groups. So maybe if you're a guy like Nick Camby or Marcus Crowder or maybe Nathan Gultry, some of these new guys to the WSM scene, you're probably not hoping these guys are in your group. That would be Trey Mitchell and Evan Singleton in particular. Bobby Thompson for sure. I think he's one of those guys this year that could get out of a group pretty easily, considering maybe this particular WSM is opening up an opportunity for a lot of new guys to make it into that final. But Trey Mitchell and Evan Singleton are my guarantees to make it. I know, right? I don't need a crystal ball to figure that out. So those 2 guys in particular, and I think either one of those guys could bust that podium up. I really do. Again, to nobody's surprise out there, I'm not picking some dark horse here to win this thing. But who my sleeper is, and I really think this is a sleeper to win the whole show, is Trey Mitchell. I know Trey's coming off an injury a while back. He's well recovered. Chad Coy has been coaching him. I think, Chad, you're still coaching him. And anybody Chad Coy coaches, yeah, I will put a few bucks on that horse to win. Trey Mitchell is very capable, and he's looking fantastic, by the way. If you haven't saw him, it looks like he's more athletic than he's ever been. And I think this show has been the one circled on his calendar for quite some time now, coming through that injury, being trained by Chad and getting ready for this show. I think we might see some big fireworks from Trey this year. I love Evan Singleton, of course, as well. If he could maybe stay away from injury, or I know he had some allergic reaction before. And boy, a lot of crazy shit happens to Evan at these bigger shows. But he's a guy, certainly watching his training, if he stays healthy through this thing, he's going to make it to the final. I guarantee that. If he does, he can be a guy that shake it up as well. They could definitely give Tom and Mitch a run for their money. Again, I love Bobby. Nick, but that remains to be seen again, according to group. Spencer Remick, another big guy coming out of OSG more recently. I love to see these new names, Marcus Crowder, Nathan Galtry, and of course, Kevin Ferris. I mean, Kevin's been, I think, 8 times at World's Strongest Man now, somewhere around there, 6 to 8 times. He's a guy that, of course, nobody can ever or will ever count him out. He's an athletic type guy. He's a strong guy, a guy that could certainly, in this year's group, again, sneak into that final. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of all I got for you now. I just think it's great that we have, this many Americans representing. I mean, in years past, I guess if you counted them, there's always generally more than any other country out there. But I guess I'm really excited about this because we're seeing a lot of new names. Spencer Remick, Marcus Crowder, Nathan Galtry, Nick Camby. And we're seeing some guys that are in their prime, like Trey Mitchell, Evan Singleton, Bobby Thompson. And then we're seeing some guys that we're not going to see again, sadly, like Rob Kearney, who's been there before, never made it out of group to the finals, but certainly has done some amazing things in the strongman community. And you want to talk about a guy that was a 105er that came up into the heavyweights. There's a perfect example. So don't count Nick Camby out. That's what I'm saying. He's a growing boy, just like Rob was when he first broke into the heavyweights. And he's done some amazing things. So this is his final World's Strongest Man. So good luck to Rob in the rest of his life and what he's doing. I am more than certain he's going to be a part of this strongman community for years to come in one form or another. But this is going to be his last World's Strongest Man. So, so there's a lot going on in this year's show. As we get closer to the show next week, we get the groups that come out. We'll have maybe a little bit deeper dive into it. As many of you know, I really love these up-and-coming heavyweight open guys that we're seeing come through OSG and through the United States. I gave a lot of love to them last year before I took my break. I'm going to continue to give those guys love, and it's good to see that we've got a couple opportunities to get some of these guys moving along in that class through the World's Strongest Man this year.